All right. I'd like to call to order the February 23rd, 2022 Sisters Workshop. I'd like to make a little announcement. Please mute your cell phones if you're in the room. And if you're up on the screen joining us virtually, please mute your microphone and turn off your video, please. Thank you. First item on the agenda today is Deschutes County Sheriff's Office update. Lieutenant Davis is in the room. He's making his way forward. Good evening.
Good evening. So we sent our stats over on this month. If anybody had any questions with that, but we're seeing an increase.
I think it's your radio and our mic.
Seeing an increase in our activity as well. Traffic numbers are up. We've been deploying our speed trailer, which today was on Cascade, which you may have seen. Actually pretty high numbers for January compared to January 21, almost 200 more calls or more incidents, and a lot of those are being self-initiated traffic stops and then just community placing contacts. So any questions on that?
Yeah, well, certainly a comment I was going to bring up. Do you think it's part of our growth pattern, or is it more tourist, or is it just both?
I think it's due in part to the deputies are just getting out with the weather being better probably this year in January than it was the previous year. I think that's part of it, and just more tourists and whatnot, and then our folks being more active as well. And then just something to bring your attention that the city received a letter from some of the downtown business owners regarding the cold weather shelter. I reviewed that yesterday, actually came in yesterday, and went out today, this afternoon, and made contact with all the listed business owners on the letter that they had written in about. I also had some stats pulled regarding calls in the city relating to that area. We've only had about 7 that were somewhat related to the cold weather shelter, so not a lot of calls for service, no arrests or anything like that. There's been some congregating of people going to the shelter before 6, and that's been a cause of concern to some of the business owners, some loitering, some going through garbage cans and whatnot. I just went out and personally made contact with those folks today, the business owners that signed the letter, gave them business cards and encouraged them to call, because, you know, I think they're dealing with and seeing some issues, but they're not calling about it. And so I encourage them to call. If there are issues that they're concerned about, then they need to reach out to us, because we could be out doing a million different other things, but if we don't get a call about it, we don't know about it. In addition to that, we're also doing some proactive patrols. Last night we were down there after 6, after the shelter opened, for that first half hour, 45 minutes, just talking to some people that were coming and going, encouraging them, you know, if you're going to use the shelter, to go in there, but don't congregate on private property and whatnot. And so we will be doing some proactive patrols in there. I can't guarantee that we're going to be down there for, you know, any amount of time, you know, between, you know, 6 and 7 or that, but we will be having a presence down there. So that was, you know, there were some concerns laid out in that letter that you know, we weren't totally aware of. So I just encourage them to call if there's a problem.
Okay. Thank you. We appreciate that. I mean, the outreach is just as important as anything else, I think we've learned with this situation. And obviously between the dinner period, which is 6 to 8, and I think at 8 p.m. is when they lock the doors for the night. It's not 6 o'clock like I think was in the letter. So they were a little surprised about that. But again, it's more of a communication issue. So 6 to 8, if you guys can, you know, just buzz by once in a while, I think that's great. We appreciate that. And then obviously at the morning time, 7 o'clock when they let out, I think would be helpful for sure. And thank you for the outreach, though. That really is important, and we appreciate you representing the city so well and doing that. I'm going to go around the room since we're virtual and ask if anybody's got any questions. So, Counselor Blum, do you have any questions for Lieutenant Davis? No? Counselor Ross?
None.
None? Counselor Letts?
No. In the letter, it alluded to some suspicious fires between downtown or the West End. Do you have any information about that? Is it true? Is it?
We have one individual who has been suffering from some mental health issues, who we've had a report of a few different fires, a couple in town, one by Washington Federal on the sidewalk, and one over across by Les Schwab. And we contacted that individual on those 2 occasions. And then we've had some additional ones out on the 100 Road between Highway 20 and Pine Street. And we actually took enforcement action on Saturday, issued a citation, a criminal citation for reckless burning. And then, but we also looped in Deschutes County Mental Health and offered that person some services and gave a transport to the stabilization center as well. So that issue, I know that was of huge concern to a lot of the people. So we have taken action on that, and we've offered services to that individual, but that person is still in the community, and but we're aware of it. That's the big thing, is being aware and getting calls from citizens reporting it. So it's we're aware of it, and we're working on it.
Right. And as far as seeking help, there's no requirement. There's no, it's each individual has to determine if they want to seek more help, more mental health.
Exactly. Yeah, and you know, we did give the courtesy transport to the stabilization center for those services. So, and then it's incumbent upon them to follow up, though, if there are recommendations to further care, then obviously they need to do that.
Good. Thank you. That was it.
Okay. I don't have any questions, but I usually say it every time. Thank you for what you do, for being our law enforcement presence. And sisters, we appreciate it. It keeps us all safe, and we enjoy having you here.
Okay.
So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next item on the agenda is Sisters High School outdoor lighting presentation. Thank you guys for coming up and doing this. First of all, I really want you guys to say your names so we can have it in the record. Thank you.
Okay. I'm Lizzie and Crystal.
Didn't even recognize you. And you have to speak really loud into the microphone.
Yeah, you'll have to get closer. When you're speaking, go ahead and get a little closer. Thank you. You may begin, I guess.
All right. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to present to you tonight. We already went over our names. I'm Molly, and I'm a sophomore at Sisters High School. Lizzie's a junior, and Caleb's a sophomore. We want to raise awareness about the importance of preserving dark skies and the benefits that they give us, as the city is in the process of updating the lighting ordinance.
Dark skies are very important because the ability to see stars sparks a sense of wonder and gives us a sense of place in the universe and a connection to nature.
Dark skies have many benefits to education, such as amazing opportunities to actively learn about stars and the universe firsthand. In our community, there are many citizen science opportunities, such as Recon, which we participate with. It is a citizen science program in which communities from Canada to the border of Mexico participate in gathering information about little-known asteroids. Each dot on the map to the right represents a participating community, with groups also in Madras, Redmond, Bend, Lapine, and Sun River. We are collaborating region-wide with other schools. At the high school, we are collecting information with our sky quality meter about the sky darkness in Sisters. The Sisters Astronomy Club holds star parties, and Pine Mountain Observatory, Sun River Observatory, and Worthy Observatory all offer educational opportunities to the community as well. It is exciting for collaboration to occur throughout Central Oregon with all these communities. There are currently active astronomy programs at Sisters and Bend schools, and Redmond and Prineville schools are building their programs. Dark skies are important because animals use the stars to navigate during migration. Dark skies support organism health and growth, and many nocturnal animals depend on darkness for survival. Light also influences seasonal changes in plants.
Night lights can influence plant and tree growth, sometimes preventing trees from going dormant in time to defend against cold weather. Trees exposed to light drop their leaves later. Also, millions of birds are killed each year from disorientation during migration caused by light pollution in cities, and many are blinded by lights and fly into buildings. The picture on the right shows a bunch of birds that died that way. Light pollution makes stars less visible, which many animals rely on to navigate, and they appear dim because of light pollution. Artificial light interferes with migration, navigation, mating, foraging for food, and sleeping patterns for animals.
Rely on darkness for our circadian rhythm and melatonin production, which lead to more restful sleep. Light pollution disrupts the production of melatonin, altering sleep patterns, and is associated with many negative health effects, such as sleep disorders, increased risk of obesity, depression, diabetes, and breast cancer and prostate cancer. These are current issues that many people are facing and could be reduced simply by reducing light at night.
Dark skies also bring economic benefits through tourism, such as astrotourism, general nature-oriented recreation, and wildlife-related activities such as birdwatching and hunting. These types of tourism can extend through the shoulder season, and especially in the case of astrotourism, can bring people who might stay overnight using local lodging and exploring our town.
Is this one?
Yes.
That better?
Okay. Especially that one, those ones turn off, don't they, Paul? There we go. A little better. Ooh, look at that. Nice touch.
Responsible night lighting reduces energy consumption, costs, and emissions, and is actually safer for our community.
Shielding lights and reducing glare helps improve safety. These images demonstrate how responsible lighting actually improves safety. The important point is that more light does not always result in a safer environment. The way an area is lit is important. The picture on the left shows the impact of glare. When a light is not shielded, it produces glare and draws attention to the light and away from the area intended to be illuminated. When light is shielded, in this case by the hand, the person in the gate becomes more visible as her eyes are not distracted by the light itself. Lowering and shielding lights illuminates the area intended to be lit while preventing glare. Warmer colored lights have a lower impact on night vision. The left picture is a good example of lighting. These lights are low to the ground, the bulb is fully shielded, and it effectively illuminates the path.
Irresponsible lighting increases cost and fossil fuel consumption, as well as emissions from energy production. That shows like the different amount that's coming from different production of fossil fuels or use of fossil fuels. This light demonstrates an unshielded light in sisters that produces glare, light trespass, and contributes to sky glow on the left.
Our dark skies are currently at a very similar rate to what the Portland area was like in the 1950s. We are at a critical time with the increase of population growth in Central Oregon to have a chance to influence our ability to see the stars into the future. Cost and efforts we pay now will be far outweighed by benefits in the future. These maps show satellite imagery of how the light pollution in the United States has increased from the late 1950s to a projection of what it will be in 2025, just 3 years from now. It is important to point out that we and sisters live on the northwest edge of one of the darkest areas in the United States, so our actions will also influence southeastern Oregon's night skies. We are right there.
This map shows the light pollution in Central Oregon in 2015. Sisters produces a small light dome, and it is our hope that with updating and implementing our dark sky ordinance, this light dome over Sisters will actually decrease, even with increased population and growth. As we said before, you can see we are on the edge of one of the largest pristine dark sky areas in the US, and we influence that by our lighting. If we use responsible lighting practices here, it will buffer the area to the southeast.
Light pollution is predominantly caused by lights that are unshielded, cool in color, or higher on the Kelvin scale, or are excessive or inappropriate. Such lights cause light trespass, glare, and sky glow. Sky glow is an area of the sky that is lit up by ground light pollution. Shielding is defined as an opaque covering that prevents any transmission of light through it, and that points light down on the intended areas so that the source of the light or bulb is not visible from beyond of the property limits. These lights prevent glare, reduce light trespass, and lower sky glow. We want to point out that the beautiful cascade lights are not in compliance with the lighting code because they lack shielding and produce glare. This is important not only from a light pollution perspective, but also from a safety perspective. The bright lights draw attention away from drivers and to the fixtures and away from the crosswalks and sidewalks where the focus should be, and the areas where pedestrians stand, While we understand that changing the Cascade streetlights might not be in the scope of the current budget, we hope the city will consider updating these fixtures in the next few years. We see how important it is for the city to model responsible lighting practices. In contrast, the lights in the background at the ski inn are shielded and project the light down the walkway. And these are the lights at the ski inn, and these are the harmful lights. Yes, that's what I meant to point to.
Lights should light the area intended to be lit and not draw your eyes to the light source. This photo of Five Pines lights, which are globe frosted, is unshielded and produces glare and light trespass. The following are photos of good lighting.
This is a picture of a Hood Avenue streetlight that highlights a light that follows these principles. The fixture holds the bulb under the shield while projecting light down on the street and walkway in a warm color. As well, it's also this also is an example of good lighting. The wall lights are on the outside of Jewel on Cascade Avenue. They are covered with decorative sconces that light the walkway and prevent glare and light trespass. And then these lights are recessed into the ceiling, lighting the entry while preventing light trespass and glare. I think those are on Athletic Club. These are the library lights. They are shielded by covers and the roof of the building, reducing glare while lighting the entry. We have a sky quality meter on a shed behind the high school, which collects data on sky darkness. We have been collecting data since June 2020. This is a part of a citizen science project led by the International Dark Sky Association, the Oregon chapter, to better track night sky light pollution and sky darkness in Oregon. Data collected with the Sisters High School sky quality meter from June 2020 to October 2021 shows that light pollution in Sisters has slowly but steadily been increasing, as you can see here on this graph. This demonstrates the necessity to raise community awareness and enforce the lighting ordinance.
Sisters has historically had little to no light dome. This picture shows the light dome now observed over the city at 5 a.m. on February 11th. We hope the city's efforts in updating and enforcing the light ordinance will cause the light dome to be reduced and/or eliminated. This shows the need to update the lighting ordinance, raise awareness, and enforce the code.
The following slides highlight some recommendations we have for the lighting ordinance. These include guidelines from the International Dark Sky Association. We recommend implementing the 5 principles of responsible outdoor lighting as best practices that were developed by the International Dark Sky Association and the Illuminating Engineer Society. The 5 things that we want on this are useful, targeted, low light, controlled, and warm color. And it goes into more depth on the card.
This image shows a visual of the 5 principles of responsible outdoor lighting, which prevents light pollution that Caleb just explained. You want to shield lights properly to point down to prevent light trespass, direct light only to an area that needs to be light, and keep it as low as possible to adequately light the area. Use warmer lights rather than cool, and avoid blue and white light. Only use them when they are needed and as dim as possible. And if possible, use automatic timed lights and turn them off when you're not in use.
We recommend the following general changes to the current dark sky ordinance. Implement the 5 principles of responsible lighting, measure brightness in lumens, and the maximum lumens should be 1,600 lights in residential areas. Should limit the amount of light emitted per area, specify light color, all lights targeted and fully shielded, limit height of lights installed, establish zones of lighting, include graphic for acceptable lighting fixtures, set example with the city lighting, raise community awareness, and enforce the code.
We also recommend including graphics in this ordinance, such as the one shown here posted on the IDA website, to emphasize appropriate lighting.
One way to raise awareness in the community is to provide an info card that includes those 5 principles of responsible lighting on one side, and then also explain why dark skies matter with bulleted values of dark night skies on the other, and highlight the attractions of starry night skies. It could be available at City Hall, the Chamber of Commerce, realty offices, hotels, and included with permit applications and packets to new homeowners. You can also raise awareness through the Nugget articles, which we have already started including dark sky tips in, and star parties with the Astronomy Club, and other events such as the documentary that was shown a couple years ago.
In 2015, the astronomy class at Sisters High School conducted a survey to determine how much the community valued dark skies. The survey was posted in the Nugget, emailed, and publicized by word of mouth. The results emphasized the value of our community places in protecting the valuable resource of our night skies. 335 people responded to this, and they were all members of the Sisters community. 98% of people valued being able to see the stars. 36% of people had no awareness of the dark sky ordinance or standards in Sisters or Deschutes County. 30 people commented on the need for education and enforcement of dark skies lighting code. 17 people commented about the need for light for safety, using proper shielding and directing light. Out of the 335 respondents, only 2 of them expressed resistance to the ordinance and changing lights.
With the update of the lighting ordinance, the City of Sisters has a unique opportunity to become an international dark sky community. From the IDA website, an IDA International Dark Sky Community is a town, city, municipality, or other legally organized community that has shown exceptional dedication to the preservation of the night sky through the implementation and enforcement of the Quality Outdoor Lighting Ordinance, dark sky education, and citizen support of dark skies. Dark sky communities excel in their efforts to promote responsible lighting and dark sky stewardship and set good examples for surrounding communities. As community members, we see that Sisters is already completing many of the steps to get the certification. If the city and community is willing to go through the application process, we could become the first dark sky community in Oregon. Other towns that have achieved dark sky community status include Flagstaff and Sedona, Arizona. So far, Sun River is the only certified dark sky place in Oregon. There are no dark sky communities. These 6 places are working hard toward certification: Prineville Reservoir State Park, Black Butte Ranch, Pine Mountain Observatory, Cottonwood Canyon State Park, Wallowa Lake Street State Park, and Minam State Recreation Area. Worldwide, there are only about 30 recognized dark sky communities, and Sisters could be part of that select group.
If Sisters decides that it would like to try to become a dark sky community, some of the next steps would be build community support for dark sky protection, initiate the IDA application process, update and enforce the city dark sky standards, collect sky quality measurements to assess the change, and possibly collaborate with Deschutes County.
The requirements for becoming a dark sky community include these items: lighting zones around the city, shielding by zone depending on the bulb or brightness, 27,000 Kelvin bulbs that are of a warm color, non-residential lights off at an hour after closing, illuminated sign specs, service station canopy and greenhouse guidelines, a timeline for the existing lighting to adhere to the new policy, and a policy to address overlighting. Many of these things either are already in the existing ordinance, have been discussed to be included in the updated ordinance, or could be easily implemented in the updated ordinance.
Okay, the benefits of a dark sky for our community are enhanced quality of life, a sense of beauty and wonder, economic benefits to the community and its surroundings, increased human health, support to ecological health, reduced energy costs and reduced emissions, darker skies, a sense of place and peace, preservation of the rural environment, draw for tourism, education, and natural heritage for future generations. Thank you for listening. Are there any questions?
Thank you. We appreciate it. As the mayor, I'll start off first. How important it is for you guys to help the City of Sisters get through that process and be an actual dark sky city, as you've stated up here?
I think it would be more just of like an extra thing if we would like to keep doing that. It would be a great thing for the community. That would also increase tourism. But I think that the main priority is just having the lighting ordinance updated and get closer to those standards.
Okay. And I have a question on that graph page. Who's running the graphics? If you can go back to the one where it had the 2020 through 21, it was like all the colored months.
Horizontal.
There you go. So I had a little hard time understanding the blobs there on the bottom. Is it because they get bigger in area on the right side? Is that we're measuring how much light there is with those colors?
Yes. So the bigger area is showing more pollution.
Right. Obviously, the summertime there's more
And
light because there's more activity.
The increase on the right, as we can see from here to here, there's a big increase.
Gotcha.
Just from our sky quality meter at Sisters.
Okay.
Do you want me to clarify that? So you can see the line, the trend line across the bottom, and it's slight, but the darker the sky, the lower down on the graph.
I see.
And so each individual clump of color is representing data collected in that month.
Okay.
And they're spread out because sometimes if there's clouds or if the weather is different, it will be more reflective. So the higher up on the graph, the more there is light pollution, the lower down, the darker. And so we're looking at kind of an average trend, but if you average each month, the average of each month is generally stepping up.
So I thank you for the clarification. So it's not the size of the blob, it's like where the center point is on the up and down.
Yes.
I got you. Okay.
And those.
That helps me read the graph a lot better. So.
And the lines up above, the top one is observatory, so it's showing more distinct increase because the steepness of the line goes up further. And the middle one is from a meter on Aubrey View, which is also showing more light pollution because it's higher up on the line. The higher up on the graph, the more light pollution. So Sisters is dimmer, or better, we have darker skies than both those sites in Bend proper. But the troubling thing is that there is some increase over that year and a half.
I see. Thank you. So there's an upward trend, obviously. Yeah, okay. Thank you much. I don't have any other further questions. I do want to thank you for doing this. Do you have any questions?
I do.
Yeah.
A couple comments too. Thank you for the light fixture diagram. I think that's really helpful. And unfortunately, about 4 years ago, I thought I was improving my outdoor front porch light, and it's on your bad list. So I'll be looking at that again. And thank you for including Grant Tandy, a 2011 graduate. In one of your slideshows, he works at Worthy Brewing as a sky person. I don't know, astronomer, astrologist, whatever his title is. And then my last question is, have you contacted the school district? They have 3 buildings, soon to be a 4th building. They have a lot of outdoor lighting and light fixtures. I'm not sure if they comply or not, and maybe a presentation to the school board or their building facility director might be an appropriate action for you. Thank you.
I want to say thanks for the wonderful presentation. I wish all the presentations we saw were this good.
Yeah.
Because you presented a problem, you explained the problem, you had lots of data, and then you offered up solutions, and you offered up a variety of solutions, knowing that it's not one size fits all, and it also included a communication plan. So 100% on that. Thank you for that. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I learned something. And yeah, we have room for improvement, and I'm glad you weren't shy about showing city-owned lights on your bad category. And you're right that we need to be a leader in this before we would, ask or enforce anybody else to do this. So yeah, it has given us a lot of, I think, food for thought. And, this has been a topic of recent for us and the council and the city to, update the code. So really appreciate a lot of the information in this because I think it was very helpful for me.
All right, thank you. Councilor Blum?
I won't repeat all that Jennifer said, but I would agree with everything she said there. It's a very good presentation, well thought out. A lot of times people come to us with problems, but they have no idea how to solve those problems. So we appreciate the breadth of this presentation, and thank you for bringing it to us.
Councilor Ross?
Yeah, good evening. Sorry I wasn't there for the presentation. I'm a little under the weather and decided to be smart and stay home. I was looking forward to it and seeing you present in person. Takes a lot of gumption to stand in front of a bunch of folks like us and tell us what we're doing right and wrong and what we should be doing, and I applaud that. Future's good for us, at least as far as our citizenry is concerned. Lighting, I'm with you 100%. I think that I've seen the light encroachment in the time that I've been here. In our new additions, we put in fixtures that are appropriate. I'm not sure our other ones are. I'll take another look at them. One of the things that you don't mention that has become more common in our community is backyard string lights. You could buy them at Costco. They have little Edison style light bulbs that hang from them. Everybody likes them. They create an awful lot of light pollution. And so I think that's something as we look at as a city council, not only should we be looking at fixtures that go onto homes when they're built, constructed, and our lighting downtown, but we also need to really kind of take a hard look at backyard lighting and how do we allow folks to enjoy themselves in their backyards with some lighting, but also ensure that light gets shut off at a time of night when we're going to have our darkest skies and allow us to enjoy the dark. So thank you. I'm not going to let this go. I don't think some of the others of us are going to let this. In fact, I don't think anybody's going to let this go. I think it's good presentation. I saw you do it one time earlier without as much information, and it's greatly improved. Thank you.
Thanks, Councilor Ross. And as the mayor, I feel seen because he's talking about my patio lights. I have 8 strings of patio lights that go all the way the fence around my house, but I have them on a timer and they shut off 2 hours after dusk. So I hope that's okay. But I would really like to hear at some point, doesn't have to be tonight, what you thought your guidance would be on those patio lights. I think that's something to, it's food for thought. And I think Councilor Ross up there was exactly right. And the second thing I'll say is, I'd really like you to encourage us to keep pushing us as a city. I think that it's a great thing that you're here presenting. I think it's very important for your generation, because your generation is going to be our generation not too far down the road, and you'll be in charge. And so the education part doesn't start here, it starts where you guys are at. And I'd really like to encourage us as a council and as a city to consider creating ourselves as the first dark sky city in Oregon. I think it's a great idea. We've had a lot of talk about many of those ideas already. I mean, these aren't new ideas to us, but how you get there is always the hardest part. There's money involved, there's enforcement involved, and there's sensitive things other than that involved. It's emotional for a lot of people. So, but at the same time, I'd like you to encourage you to keep pushing us, and maybe we can get something done real soon. Okay. Any other statements? Any other questions? Anybody? Okay. Thank you so much. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
You guys have a good night. Okay, that was awesome.
Yes.
Our third workshop item is the auditor presentation. Joe, you starting us off?
Thank you. Guess I'll kick it off. We have Rob Tremper there in his humble abode or office or both.
Hello. So we're going from dark skies to dark money, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want the rest of the lights on?
At least one on, please.
Yeah.
So Rob is going to take us through. Rob is a partner at J.P. Tremper, and they provide the services to the URA, and he's going to go through the audit report for us and articulate some of the high points of that report and any questions you guys might have for him. So without further ado, take it away, Rob. Good to see you.
All right, nice to see you. Nice to see you. So I don't have a fancy presentation similar to the one you guys just.
Can you speak a little louder, please? Sorry.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Is there a microphone feature on Zoom maybe for him, or
Hold on.
on his end? I mean.
Oh, I usually don't have a problem. Let's see.
Oh, that's better.
Keep going up there.
Can you see? Okay. So as I said, I don't have a fancy presentation like the one you just went through, but I think I can follow up with a really positive audit report. We issued a clean audit opinion for both the city and urban renewal, and really had no findings that we had to report, and a few journal entries posted during the audit, but most of them were normal expected items, and just a couple of past audit adjustments. So the one piece is this is the second year that we've done the audit remotely. I'm hoping to be able to pop up there in person a little bit more this year, and that some of the restrictions go away a little, but I think we're all hoping for that. So that has some challenges on its own that maybe delayed some of the pieces, but I also had my part of it's definitely on us, as we had my partner had a heart attack mid-year and some follow-up surgeries after that. So we've been a little behind on our end. So I'm expecting next year's audit to be much more timely than what we're looking at this year. Joe and your staff there were really prepared on the audit itself, and that all went pretty well. It looks like they gave me the ability to share my screen here, and let's see, are you able to see some of the letters that's in your packet?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I just thought it might be easier to point out some highlights that I wanted to show you in here by doing that. So there's 2 letters that got issued for each of the city and urban renewal. This letter is kind of a wrap-up letter and a follow-up to letters we sent out in the beginning that asks about any related party activity, any concerns you might have. We try to take those letters and use them as part of the planning process and follow up on items that we can. So we encourage you to, if you have concerns, to make sure you voice them in some of those letters, or you're always welcome to give us a call. But a couple pieces to point out is that, management is ultimately responsible for the accounting policies and the financial statements themselves. And, we do a lot to assist with that and to advise. But our job at the end of the day is to give an opinion whether the financial statements are stated materially correct, which, as I mentioned, we did issue a clean audit opinion, and that we believe that's the case. No big changes in accounting standards or auditing standards this year. With COVID, they've kind of given us a break for a couple of years and delayed them, but they're going to start rolling in again next year. So your FY22 audit's going to have some changes in there. Leases, the way they're accounting for leases is going to be one of the big things. And that's going to be a total remake as to how leases are accounted for. And Joe and I've had some preliminary discussions on that, but there's still quite a bit to do to get that implemented. Also, accounting estimates, we're required to kind of point out what some of the major accounting estimates are in your financial statements. Depreciation expense is a normal estimate. I can't tell you exactly how long your building's gonna last or some of your streets. And so those get written off over an estimated useful life. The large one and politically out there is the net pension assets and liabilities that relate to PERS. And that along with other post-employment benefits, both of those liabilities are determined by actuaries and are a complicated enough process that it has to go through a big piece to try to get that measured on your books. And as I mentioned, we encountered no significant difficulties in the audit. Just being remote is somewhat of a challenge, but the information that came pretty timely and in pretty good order. Also, if we had any material adjustments, we'd point those out. In most years, there have been material audit adjustments. I mentioned there were very few adjustments this year. And but there were a couple of past audit adjustments that I'll flip to. That's just a couple pages back. Is we had a couple adjustments that could have been made for the audit but weren't. First one is just kind of a different in accounting types, whether we're going to defer grant revenues in a sewer fund that aren't collected within the first 30 days of the year, or if we recognize them right away. After the financials were drafted, that was kind of discovered that deferred revenue probably should have been reversed. And so that's just going to get corrected in this current year. And then also a normal process with utilities is that you would have a cutoff in June that say part of a month is June and part of the month is July for usage on your utilities. A normal process would be to record those unbilled amounts, so say half a month of the next billing, and to stay consistent on how it's been reported over the last decade is the city or so. The city doesn't normally record their unbilled utility receivables. That way we've got a full 12 months of billings in there and kind of a consistency. But in under generally accepted accounting principles, that's something you would normally do. So no real big issues in there. We also issued both for the city and urban renewal this letter. It's affectionately called the AUC 265 letter. Discusses any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies that we've reported. We're not allowed to say we didn't report significant deficiencies, but you can see the lack of anything reported in the letter is kind of insinuates that. But we've found no material weaknesses and clean reports in these letters as well. I think the only negative items reported in the audit itself is we had a few over expenditures that get reported in the very back of the audit related to the report to the state of Oregon on minimum standards. There's gonna need to be a little bit of follow-up and kind of a corrective action letter that Joe will need to do and that the council usually will need to adopt, that gets sent in to the state to say, how are we gonna try to minimize that or avoid that in the future. So that's the only real piece there. There's only a couple of quick points in the audit itself I wanted to touch base on or to give you highlights on. One is this year is the last year. This is going to be called the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. It could have been changed this year, but there's new guidance out there that these are now going to be the Annual Comprehensive Financial Report. Apparently the acronym of the CAFR, C-A-F-R, is a derogatory term in South Africa or somewhere in Africa. So that's changed accounting standards on that piece, and that will be implemented in next year's financial statements. But the city does issue the comprehensive annual financial report, and really that's kind of a kudos to the city. It takes a lot of extra work to do that, and it really shows that you guys are serious about having a good financial reporting and a nice financial statement out there. There's additional work to have a statistical section and transmit a letter, organizational charts, and then you usually actually submit for an award, which you do have the award in this year's audit report from the year before. So most of that extra work is on the city's end, so I can really applaud them for their work on that. So if we look at the table of contents, you can see the introductory section where they have the transmittal letter in different pieces. I'm going to skip all the way down to just a couple of financial statements in here. And it's going to be easier for me to flip this way, so don't get dizzy if I'm moving too fast. There are a couple of statements. So the basic financial statements, I like to point these out. These two statements in the front this is more of a statement of net position or a balance sheet that takes the city governmental activities and business type activities as a whole and reports them similar to what you would see at a for-profit company. It's more of a long-term perspective and is a lot different than what you see at the budget basis, which is more of a current financial resources perspective. We're at the end of the year sitting on almost $8 million in cash and had a positive net position for both your governmental activities and your business type activities, and positive unrestricted net position. So in the long-term perspective, the city's actually sitting at a better position than a lot of cities that we deal with. The other post-employment benefits liability is only about $50,000 for you, and $1.8 million for a net pension liability. And that, again, with number of employees where you guys are at and your funding levels is a lot more positive than a lot of places, especially school districts that are a lot more staff heavy. And so that's a real positive on the long-term effect. And if you look at just what the change was in the current year, it was about a $5 million increase from the year before. But a big chunk of that has to do with capital grants and contributions, which is a combination of actual grant revenues, system development charges, and contributed assets from developers that they go develop the road or water and sewer that becomes property of the city once those are developed. And just one or two more pieces in here. I won't keep you too long, but your governmental balance sheets. Big thing for indicator for a city is usually how's your general fund doing? And you see we have a positive about almost 2.4 million in fund balance for your general fund. And if we look at that as a comparison as to, what were our expenditures, and kind of a rule of thumb out there is to have at least, about 3 months worth of fund balance to fund expenditures into the next year. And you see our fund balance almost 2.4 million and your expenditures are only 2.6. So we have well more than the 3 months that are in there. So a pretty healthy fund balance as we look at that going forward. And then another big operating indicator has to do with your enterprise funds. And as to your water and sewer funds, how are those doing? And both had a positive operating income and overall positive change in net position of almost 2.6 million combined. And again, a lot of that has to do with system development charges and capital asset contributions, but they're still sitting in the black on both of those funds. Urban renewal didn't have a lot of activity going on this year, not a lot of projects, mostly paying of debt and collection of property taxes. But I, understand as that one's getting closer to the end, that that might have a little more quickening in some of the projects and pieces out there. And I think actually at the end of the year, you had enough cash to pay off the debt if you wanted to. And one key component of urban renewal is that the property taxes are levied to pay debt. So we have to consider that we want to have some debt outstanding in order to continue to levy property taxes and as we get closer to the end of the urban renewal piece. So again, real positive audit, real happy with all the work that your staff did and very few adjustments. So I don't have much more to say than that, but I don't know if you have any questions. I know you haven't had a lot of time to go through any of these.
Yeah, Rob, this is Mayor Prieden. Are you allowed to give us a letter grade?
Well, I'm pretty stingy on my letter grades. As we do employee reviews, I'm kind of tough on giving the 10s. So I'd probably give you a B++.
Okay,
I don't like
fair enough.
No,
I
actually, I think you guys have definitely earned an A. It went really well.
Yeah, it's kind of nice to hear some financial grading that doesn't involve a number. So that's why I kind of went to the letter grade. Does anybody have any questions? Councilor Letts, Councilor Ross, Councilor Blum? No? See, Joe, you guys do such a good job. Nobody even questions you.
Well, Rob does quite a bit. So.
Yeah, well, we know who's doing the work. We appreciate Rob. I'm not saying we don't, but we know who's doing the daily work. So thank you very much.
A quick comment.
Yeah, there you go.
I am happy to hear that the term CAFR is sunsetting. My first wife was from Africa, and when I first heard that term, many years, I served on Park and Recreation Board, so I heard it a lot. It always kind of ran the wrong way. So somebody figured it out.
What it meant.
Okay.
No, sorry.
That's it.
Okay,
Thanks,
thank you,
Joe.
Rob.
Thanks, Rob.
Alrighty. Thank you.
Happy tax
Please
season.
share my screen and exit your thing. So thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
All right. That's the end of our agenda on the workshop. Do we want to take a little break before the city council meeting? I think so.
And just to explain, so those two adjustments, just real quick. So the first one was actually one that I thought we had to make later and we didn't. So I actually had it right the first time and then sent them an updated trial balance to include that 8,000. The second one is basically the amount of revenue that we generate after we read meters. So it's that gap in the month. So like he said, it's there every year. It's just something that we calculate. So you see there was kind of a wash in, wash out of that.
Yeah.
And when he says, we're giving the 12-month actual, well, if you kind of left it, it would be the same, but they just kind of correct it every year. So that's what that is.
So
if that makes sense.
It's after reading the meter in the very last month of the fiscal year.
Exactly. So if you read it on the 24th, that's the 25th through the 30th, right?
So that's what that represents. And typically we don't make that adjustment anyways. We could, but it's never material enough for us to do it.
Gotcha. Thanks for the explanation.
You bet.
All right, anything else? All right, we'll go
Well,
ahead and
thanks
close the workshop.
Pardon me while I unmute us all. Mayor Preden,
I am here.
Council President Conley,
Present?
Councilor Blum,
Here.
Councilor Letts,
Here.
Councilor Ross.
Here, that was the quietest pledge of allegiance I've heard in a long time.
I was mumbling, I apologize. All right, first item is the approval of the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
I second.
We have a motion and a second.
Mayor Preden,
Aye.
Council President Conley,
Aye.
Councilor Blum,
Aye.
Councilor Letts,
Aye.
Councilor Ross.
Aye.
Fantastic. The next item on the agenda is visitor communication, and I believe we have some.
We do. So we had a letter submitted for the record on the Sisters Cold Weather Shelter from local businesses, which you all received and is included in the packet. We had another letter submitted for the Rural Dark Skies Initiative from Wendy Von Kolonowski. That was also submitted to you this afternoon and will be part of the packet. And then our first person up to speak is Paul Bennett. And Paul, if you can unmute yourself and turn your screen on. There you go. Thank you, Paul.
Okay.
Hello, Paul. I'm going to give
Hi.
you 3 minutes. Is that okay?
I'll speak as fast as I can. All right, thank you. Do you need my address or do you have all that?
I have that. Thank you, Paul.
All right. Yes. Well, my name is Paul Bennett. I've lived here 31 years and I've worked as an artist during all this time. Many of my paintings deal with the night sky. I even did a book a couple of years ago called Night Skies that featured 44 of my paintings. I think the role of the artist in promoting this idea is very important when you think of, say, the work of Ansel Adams in promoting national parks like Yosemite, or going back to the turn of the century and the photographs that influenced Roosevelt to turn many of our lands into national parks. You know, getting those images in front of the public and to really teach them about the importance of beauty and mystery and wonder is an ongoing process, but it can really drive home the importance of these issues. We are known as the town of tiny lights. I'd like to turn that branding into this statement: the town of tiny lights and dark skies, because that says nature is important to us, not just our lights and our holidays, but it says that we value the world, the natural world around us. You know, we have a lot of these rules and regulations were written before we had things like headlamps and smartphones and pathway lights and strings of lights. And so they're outdated. We don't, we can walk down a dark street these days, but with a flashlight or headlight, we all have those things. We don't need street lights on all the time. So getting that word out is important. So I think personal stories that are written to the Nugget, for example, are written to you, where people can talk to you about either their lights or their neighbor's lights. I've written 3 letters to the Nugget so far, and I always hear from people complaining about their neighbor's lights. And so I think they need to hear one another. And so maybe having some listening sessions where somehow you can organize groups of people just to listen to one another and teach them about the value of lights and how they don't like to have to go to sleep with all their blinds closed just to have the room dark enough to sleep. And they like to wake up to the morning light like I do. It's much like catch and release fish. At some point you get it. This is important. You do this. It's like picking up after your dog. You do it because you know it's the right thing to do. And so, again, I want to emphasize that kind of branding idea of the town of tiny lights and dark skies. So is that my 3 minutes?
That's right at 3 minutes. Thank you very much, Paul.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
All right, we have two more.
Correct. Our next person, Susan Prince, if you'd like to put on your audio and unmute yourself.
All right, I'm here. Thank you so much for giving us all a chance to speak. I decided to do this on Zoom instead of just sending in my comments because I really wanted to hear the kids' presentation. They did such a great job. And I've worked with some of those kids. I actually meet them out here behind my house in Tollgate, which is near the high school. And we do nature awareness where they spend 15 to 20 minutes sitting quietly and just listening. And it's a skill that not many of us have anymore. And it's so important just to calm down, to connect, to listen, to see what's out around us in the natural world. And so I love that the kids are touching into these skills. And personally, I really appreciate that there are no streetlights where I live. And the people in Tollgate are pretty good. We have in our CNRs, we do have rules about lots of bright lights, and most people are really cognizant of that. And I think having that ID card be great, because then if there was a neighbor who didn't know, and usually it's somebody who's not here all the time and they have an outside light that just gets left on, then we could take the card over and, leave it on their doorstep. But yeah, boy, the idea of Sisters being the first community in Oregon that would have a dark sky ordinance, I just think is super cool. I just wanted to mention one more thing. When somebody brought up the backyard lights, which I have too, I was thinking about Christmas lights. So a few of them are cool. I love to have my Christmas lights on my trees outside, but I try to do the ones that aren't really bright, that are warm. And, there's so many ways, like Paul said so well, that what we used to do, a few people did, was okay, but cumulatively with all of us doing it, it really has an impact. So I think we need to pay a lot more attention now to what we're doing as a community. And again, really appreciate you guys taking this on. So
All right. Thank you so much. Right at 3 minutes again. You guys are good.
Michael, if you'd like to come up and speak.
Welcome, Michael.
Yeah, it's Michael, and I am homeless. I've been homeless for longer than you could believe. Part of the reason I'm missing a front tooth, I left it out when it fell out when I was working at the factory because it was artificial. It was extremely uncomfortable. I'm a hypersensitive person. That's the way I was born. And so originally, when I didn't have any hair too, it's just like people were really interested in this, them meeting me, and it'll go like that. Now with a dog or an animal, doesn't make a difference. If I was India, something like Ghani, missing teeth, didn't matter. Our culture, it's image, it's superficial, it's materialistic. On the sky thing, Paul Bennett was saying how I'm here to talk a little about psychology as fast as I can. Paul Bennett mentioned Ansel Adams. Ansel Adams, I know a little about him when he was young. He was trained to be a classical pianist. He lived in San Francisco. Because of all the chaos in San Francisco, he'd walk all around the north. He was near the north shore of San Francisco where the current comes in with Golden Gate Bridge and all that. And he'd walk around. He was very wired. He was hyperactive. He couldn't sit and study and all this. And there was a Dr. Dean on the radio says he's just one of those people that would have, big people have been put on Ritalin today. Be put on Ritalin because, he doesn't fit in right. Well, there wouldn't have been an Ansel Adams probably. And then he took a trip to Yosemite, walked around, boom. The other thing that Paul Bennett said was, you get it so it gets to be the normal thing to do. The normal thing to do is something like, as I was telling Lieutenant Davis, would be something like the Deschutes County Mental Health Services have a mission statement. It used to be on the wall. They took it off the wall. Why? Because I called them up many years ago, over a decade ago, and said, if I ever get my feet on the ground and there's a real human being that's a lawyer that gives a bleep, I'm going to sue you because you completely do not do that. And it's destructive to people to be putting on a good face. What did the mission statement say? I didn't do it verbatim, but it was repetitive like this. We are here to serve you, how you need to be served. If we are not able to serve you how you need to be served, we will outreach to any agency, bleep, 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 as well as we can. We will find how you need to be served. They absolutely in no way, in any fashion do that. And that has been going on for years and years and years and years and years and years. Modern psychologists, I'll just tell them what I was going to go right into what I need now because I ran into another person that definitely fits the term sociopath, and I cannot sleep. I'm not walking anymore. My whole behaviors thing, I was going to go down to my dad's house. He passed away a couple months ago, but I go down a full moon. I missed it because this person, she used me as a psychological horror person in town who understands everything. And then she absolutely was going to help me. And then she just totally bailed out and totally changed. See her a week later and she's just fine. Total sociopathic person. I read the books about this in the past. I know what I'm looking at. They say these people are more evil than physical violence and rape and murder or anything. The people that really get the point, that's really the problem. I already know that. It's the fact. I need a mediation with her. No one in town gives a bleep about this, how it affects me. She's the one that understood all this, but she doesn't do it. That is the worst form of a sociopath. When you've got all this information, you really get it, and then you're not there. It's hollow. It's an artificiality.
Okay, can you come
so
to the end?
I am going to, she has a family, which she lives behind and everything else. I will have a spotlight on her. I will be speaking about it. Does she want this spotlight on her? Does anyone say, hey, let's just have a little mediation, get the record straight. You're not supposed to use people like that. If she knows, blah, blah, blah. Or am I going to have the spotlight on her? Am I going to her neighbors and be pointing over there?
Okay, your time is running out.
Got it? And well, there's obviously a lot more to the story. Those vets sitting out there, I met some real Vietnam vets that know the world way beyond any damn psychologist or psychiatrist. But there was this one article in the paper about 6 or 7 years ago, Associated Press, I think it was in the bulletin, and there was a Vietnam vet saying how he was talking about the modern day vets, and he was saying that, back then, not everyone treated us right, but at least they were emotional, they had heart. And he says, today, these guys come out and, people say, oh, thank you for our service, but it doesn't mean anything. It's just artificial. They're just giving lip service to it. And he says, I'd rather be spit on than be treated the way these people are treated.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Need a motion, please.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Preden?
Aye.
Council President Conley?
Aye.
Councilor Blum?
Aye.
Councilor Letts?
Aye.
Councilor Ross?
Aye.
Okay. Moving right along. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. On to council business. The first item is discussion and consideration of motion to approve intergovernmental agreement 21041. And I'm going to let Director Woodford tell us more about it.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. This is authorization to sign an intergovernmental agreement between the Department of Land and Conservation and Development and the City of Sisters. It pertains to housing implementation plans, grants that the city has received from the state to conduct our housing plan update and our efficiency measures project. The agreement basically allows the money to flow directly from DLCD to the consultant that they hire, so the city doesn't actually disperse funds. It goes directly between those two, and we don't incur any costs to the program, which is nice. We have used the money to, or they have used the money to hire Angelo Planning Group to be our consultant for both projects, and both those projects are underway. I included a link in the report to the project website in case you guys wanted to get a little more information about the status of those projects, the calendar, frequently asked questions, those kinds of things. substance of the agreement is basically just spelling out who the partners are, what the scope of work for those two items are, the deliverables, the timeline, things of that nature. It's pretty straightforward. So that's all I have to really present on this. Just wanted to give you an update on the projects, and I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
All right. Councilor Les, do you have any questions?
No.
Councilor Blum, do you have any questions or comments?
Yes, I was wondering what, how updated the information would be that they would be using. I know a lot of data that we get is based upon a fixed date. And it sometimes is, like 2015 instead of 2020 or something like that. Is there are they going to be able to look at what's happening now, or is it going to be based on 2020 and before or something like that?
So Councilor Blum, are you referring to the housing plan or the efficiency measures, or both?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, are we going to be able to include the housing that is currently being built and that we know is going to be built, like the Woodlands, or is it going to be based on a set date prior to that?
Well, the efficiency measures project is looking at tools that we can use. We're basing our target on what the housing needs analysis told us we needed, that we updated in 2021.
Okay,
so those numbers are pretty accurate. I think the housing demographic information is stuff we're going to probably need to do a refresh on, so we can get latest and greatest information on the targeting what the truest need in the community is for affordable housing and what kind of housing it is, so that we're basing our strategies off the best information that we can get.
Okay, great. I was a little concerned that we were going to end up using data that we already know is past tense.
We're trying to avoid that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Councilor Ross?
Andrea covered it nicely. Thank you, Andrea.
Oh, you're all looking at me.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make a comment about the community outreach on action number 2 in the report. I really appreciated the detail that they went into for keeping the community involved and engaged with the process. And it is a really aggressive timeline.
Yeah.
So
for both projects.
Yes. Yeah. So knock on wood.
It is. It's going to be a busy adoption season come October, November.
Yeah.
Especially also factoring in the Parks Master Plan.
Yes.
So it's an ambitious schedule, but we're pretty certain we can pull it off.
Okay.
Let's hope we have enough meetings in the fall and the winter to get through all that.
Terry's going, how are we going to do that?
Yes.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Thank you for all the hard work you do on this stuff, and it looks like it's going to get just a little bit busier.
Yeah. Yeah. We got some good
So I
help.
hope Matt helps out.
We got some good help.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Looks like we need a motion. Anybody?
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve intergovernmental agreement number 21041 with the Department of Land Conservation and Development for housing implementation plans and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Thank you.
Mayor Preden.
Aye.
Council President Conley.
Aye.
Councilor Blum.
Aye.
Councilor Letts.
Aye.
Councilor Ross.
Aye.
So moved. So approved. Thank you. All right. On to other business. First item on other business, 7A, that's you. Second quarter financial review.
Yes, thank you.
Congratulations on the B++.
Yeah, I feel like that's I don't know, what do you think, Paul? Is that an A equivalent with Rob? He's very, yeah, Yeah,
tough.
he's very tough. He is. Yeah, it's good. That's good. So, thank you. This is obviously the second quarter here. Just going through this. I think we'll do the summary as we did last time. Taking a look at the beginning fund balance. Again, that's going to remain the same, that 830,000, right? That's the difference that we budgeted versus what we have. So that's good. I'll just go down the line here. Property taxes. So year to date, this $1,600 here does reflect the property taxes received. That is quite a high number. We shot a little bit low for the city. If you remember, we estimated about 6%, ended up being almost 9%.
Wow.
They're thinking about that percentage again this coming year, but typically we go on the little bit of the conservative end just to make sure that collections and percentages play out and we're able to strategize correctly. So that's the first thing. With the URA, when we got our tax increment in, it looked a little bit low to me. And the reason for that was, I don't know if you remember, there was a school bond that was on there from 2001. And so I reached out to our assessor. Subsequent to 2001, school bonds are not allowed for URA tax increment, which is a good thing. It gets backfilled, but I'm not sure if bonds do. So nonetheless, that fell off, and that was about $28,000. So instead of $450,000 or so, we will likely get around 418 or 420, somewhere around there. So it'll be about the same as last year, which is fine. Just you guys might see that kind of as we go through the budget process as being a little bit lower. So that's the reason for that. Any other questions with property taxes? Okay. Franchise and park fees. So those are a little bit, well, the franchise fees are up. Park fees are actually a little bit lower for those September or October, November, and December months. And you'll see those ramp back up as we have our reservations that came online in January, as we have already talked about. Let's see, miscellaneous and other income. That is tracking with expectations. So is gas tax. That will crest down a little bit with the lag in the wintertime. SDC income, obviously with development, is extremely high. We're almost at our budget levels, and that's largely due to some multifamily SDC payments, but just overall development activity is what is pushing that. Again, water receipts, like I said in the last presentation, you'll see those start to crest down a little bit in the third quarter, but you can see that they're at 59%, as a lapse percentage right now. And sewer receipts, as I also mentioned in the last presentation, are a little bit more steady. Transit room tax, kind of like SDC income, we budgeted $750,000. We are 78% of that already. So we expect that number to be quite high this year, all else being equal. And then shared revenues and grants. We have some of the tranches that will be coming up, as we also have talked about here in the later part of the fiscal year, that will kind of level that out a little bit. So that is it on the revenue side. Any questions for that?
Maybe we're collecting too many property taxes. No, oh, I got a stare.
A question about the transient room tax.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that it's a combination of more visitation, but also I'm assuming people probably are charging more, and since it's a percent,
Yep.
you're benefiting from them hiking up their lodging rates?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, it is based off gross receipts, so that's a good call. And we had the Grand Stay come online too, and with 37 or 38 maybe rooms, that also adds to it. So, and that kind of, as they add to their fees, that kind of exponentially adds to the gross amount there.
Is it TLT or TRT?
So I explained this to Councilor Conley last meeting, and I apologize. I'm trying to change this in the model, but like a lot of Excel models, everything is drawn off of language, and in our accounting system, it's transient room tax.
Yeah, gotcha.
So that's where it kind of has a little bit of a hiccup, but I'm working on that. But it's
Kind of like Y2K, right? If you do that, it might just blow the whole system.
yeah. I should have threatened more with that. Like
it might happen, but then it didn't happen. So
right.
Okay.
But I will strive to change that. But I'm a little nervous that it will implode the model that is dear to my heart. So,
Councilor Blum, Ross, any questions on that side? No. All right.
Okay.
Moving
to
on.
the expense side, yes, moving on. So capital outlay, as a percentage, this 349,000 year to date, we don't have a whole lot more of expenditures. That is largely Locust Street sewer line relocation project. We'll have a lot more of those, as I noted in there, as the fiscal year goes on. So probably a lot more third quarter and fourth quarter, of course. So that capital outlay number will be quite higher the next meeting. Debt service, that is just about tracking on expectations. We actually paid our urban renewal debt off today for about $226,000. So you'll see in the next meeting that we will have a little bit more debt exchange between the URA and the city, and we'll go through that and explain that a little bit more to retain that debt, so the URA can spend some money and still retain that tax increment. Materials and services are tracking with expectations, a couple little nuances in different funds. Paul and his team try to get as many water meters as early as they can. That's becoming more and more difficult to acquire those. And with the development that we have in place, it's even more challenging to keep up with the demand. So we have purchased a lot of those early, at least and that's an expense that we've seen a little bit higher in the water fund. Personal services are still a little bit low. If you remember, we had the COLA took effect towards the end of the year, but keep in mind we have a lot of lower rates. Our things like our health insurance didn't go up as much as we thought. The workman's comp, all those things kind of coalesced into actually a lower personal services estimate, which is good. So as long as that stays under 50%, we're happy with that. And that is about it. Any more questions on the expenditure side of things?
I don't have any. Do you have any?
No.
I see a
Okay.
lot ahead, no.
Okay, and similar to the audit report in this, if you guys have any questions.
Councilor Ross?
Oh,
did
I'm
you have
sorry.
something?
Just a quick comment, having been on the development side and the board side of many budgets, this really looks good for halfway through the year. So good job, everybody at the city. Good job budgeting and tracking. So I like what I see.
Thank you.
That's Gary with a B++.
Yeah, B++.
All right. Thanks, Joe.
Okay, thank you very much.
Great job. Thanks, Gary. All right, second item on the agenda is discuss Central Oregon Regional Housing Council appointment, and it's got my name on it. But it's a discussion for all of us, and I know we've had, everybody's seen the email and the opportunity that we have. And is there anybody that wants to step up and volunteer for that?
I'm willing to do it, but I'm also willing to let someone else do it. So I just think we need representation at this.
I think I absolutely agree with that. Councilor Blum, is it something that you would, I kind of, you're kind of a housing expert a little bit. You've got some stuff going on there. Is that something you're interested in?
I'm just not real sure exactly what this group will be, and given the legislation that's coming down the pike and the coordination that's hopefully going to be coming with it, I'm not sure how this melts into the existing territory. So, if Gary is interested in it, I'm fine with that. And I'm sure he will bring back insights into how this is all going to mesh together. It'll be interesting to see how it works out.
What was the latest on the schedule? Can you explain that, or they don't know yet?
They don't know yet.
Okay.
The day or time or necessarily even frequency of the meetings. So I think, did they say, they might have said monthly or quarterly, I don't remember.
Yeah, I think they were,
Monthly to begin with and quarterly once established.
Thank you.
I think that's what I read as well. And should we get into this, I'm more than happy to do it, by the way, but should we get into this and find that it's a much better fit for what you're doing, Andrea, I think we could probably change captains in the middle of the voyage and let someone else steer the ship at that time.
Yeah.
But I think I have the least on my plate, so I can afford to go and let them discover what it is they want to do without losing some of our other productivity. That's how I look at it anyway.
Great. Sounds good to me.
that sounds fine with me. I'll appoint Counselor Ross to that committee, and we'll see how it goes. Gary, if you ever have trouble with a meeting or something, let me know. And
yeah.
Oh.
Well, I was going to arm wrestle Gary for that position, but
Really?
I will be your backup.
Okay.
I'll be your backup.
Oh, okay. I'm more than happy to let you have it, Nancy. I just thought somebody needed to do it. That's why I stuck my hand up. I didn't have a lot on my plate.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I plan on being gone a little bit, so I'm happy.
Why don't we start off with you, Counselor Ross, and then we'll see how it goes. And I think that it's probably, because it's so new, shifting gears probably is not going to be that big a deal. I mean, I'm interested too, but I'm pretty busy, so I'm okay with letting someone else do it, and we can flesh it out a little bit. Okay, appointment's been made, so we're good there, right?
Thank you.
Everybody happy? Good? Cool. C, discuss letter of support for commercial property assessed clean energy CPACE program. Counselor Letts. Got your name on it.
I know.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We had discussed this a little bit at goal setting last week, and I did send out a little bit more information this afternoon, so I apologize, it was a little late, so I don't know if everybody got to see it, just to try to help clarify the program for anybody. So, but the quick overview is that it's just a funding mechanism for builders, and this is C for commercial, so it's anything commercial or multifamily over 5 and over units, to have a way to fund any energy efficiency upgrades in their project separately from however they're financing their main product, and just gives a lot more opportunity for builders to just access a different route of funding for these improvements. Usually they can be challenging to finance because they have a long payback period. And in my kind of research and my discussions a while back with Paula, who I see is on the call, I did come to realize that I think this isn't critical. It could be a very useful tool in Sisters, because we do not have access to Energy Trust of Oregon incentives, which every other community, every other city in Deschutes County does. So that puts us a little bit behind other communities if we are trying to attract a builder for a project. A lot more builders are interested in doing energy efficiency elements to their projects, especially growing interest in multifamily, because that brings the costs down, operating costs, the utilities. So yeah, we're at an advantage here, unfortunately, because we don't have the incentives available to us. Every other community does. So yeah, that's kind of a recap of what we discussed last week. And I think in Paula's letter, she had mentioned that City of Redmond and City of Bend and a number of entities, organizations in Deschutes County have kind of signed on in support of this, of a wide variety of backgrounds of these organizations. So I felt like it would be good for us to join in on that, I mean, especially since we have this unique challenge here of not having the incentives that the other communities have. So that's all I got.
Okay. I'll start off. I'm in support of it. Want to help local business any way we can, and I think it's I don't know if it's a major tool, if we'll, if there's businesses that'll be able to use it or not, but that's kind of not the point. And the point is having the tool in the tool bag. And so I'm for it, and I would gladly sign a letter of support for that. Anybody else?
Really a quick comment. I'm with you, Mr. Mayor, but it wasn't clear to me where the funding mechanism for this originates from. In reading over the material that Jennifer sent out, it makes a lot of sense. But it looked like some entity was going to provide the funding. I wasn't even sure if it was supposed to be through the governmental process. And then that money would follow the property and not the developer. So in other words, the property itself would pay back the funds as it goes through time. So I think it's a good process. The only thing that's not real clear to me that may be something that's something for the county to flesh out, quite frankly, is where does the funding for the energy improvements come from? That's the only question I had, but I'm 100% behind this. And I see we have nothing to lose by offering our support.
Thanks, Councilor Ross. Councilor Blum?
That was my question as well, as I didn't really understand where the money's coming from. And so if you have that information, I would appreciate hearing it. And if anybody has any information about why this isn't a good idea, I couldn't come up with any, but I'm sure that there's always two sides to everything, but I haven't read or seen anything that shows a downside.
Go ahead.
I'll answer that. In the material that was sent, the only negative I saw was from, I hate to use the word real estate agents, but I think it was real estate agents. It might have been the banks, because it puts the debt burden, if there's a lien, it buries people further down the line. And so I'm not explaining this very well. I need Joe. So that was the comment, is that if there's a lien against the property, at some point, the incentive people move higher up in the clawback and get some funds back. I don't know if you want to address that.
We want to ask Paula. Can we have Paula on the line?
Yeah, she's right.
Paula, can you help with that? You can unmute yourself and turn on your video there, please.
I'd be happy to.
Thank you so
Would you
much.
mind?
Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for bringing this issue before the council. I really appreciate it. Do you mind if I don't put on my video, because I'm in the midst of cooking dinner?
We can hear you.
I'm being a sneak. I'm cooking dinner while I'm at the council meeting, so sorry for that.
That's okay.
I really appreciate the thoughtfulness that you've put towards this. To answer where the money comes from is very simple. Right now, the way that Deschutes County is looking at it is they're looking at it as using the private lending system. There certainly is an avenue to use a bond system, but that is very few entities across the country have used the bond system. Those that have, I will say, those programs are quite successful, but that is clearly not the path that Deschutes County wants to take. They prefer to use the private market, and there is a whole private market of C-PACE lenders themselves that specialize in C-PACE lending. But what's even cooler about it, I think, is that any bank, as long as they meet the criteria, which is pretty standard banking criteria, they can become a C-PACE lender themselves. So I see this personally as a great opportunity for our community banks, as well as our credit unions. So hopefully that answers that first question. And then the second question was about where the lien takes place in the capital stack. And so indeed, because C-PACE is a tax lien, it does take priority in the capital stack right behind county taxes. However, it has been designed to take the risk and the burden away from the county and or the local jurisdiction. And so what the system would be is that the private lender would be responsible for doing the billing, the collecting, and if it were to go to default, and by the way, in over 2,500, probably over 2,600 projects across the country, there has not been a default. But if it were to go to default, it would be the responsibility of the bank to cure it with the lender. So there's very, very minimal risk to the local government in securing these loans. Secondarily, there was another point. I know this is such a complex issue, but oh, I know what it is that as far as these go, if you think about, let's say you had a $100,000 CPACE loan, and let's just say that's financed over 15, 20 years. If it were to go into arrears, it would only be the current amount due, or current and past amount due. It never balloons. It can never go to the full collection. And so that is why lenders, if there are any, challenges, they've really been able to cure and work those out and get things back on track. Does that help?
That helps a lot. Thank you. There's a lot of head nods around. If you wouldn't mind answering my little question, who do you think would be against something like this, honestly? Is there anybody?
It's really hard to say. Certainly, I've been doing a lot of outreach to stakeholders, and I haven't found any direct opposition. I certainly have found that, I want to phrase this in the right way. Depending on who you are, you have different pools of money available to you. So if you happen to be a person who has a huge budget and, a long history, and you have really, really great loans available to you, really great access to money, this may not be of interest to you because you have easier access to cheaper money. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and so for the, so you would think like some of these bigger developers, it's like, oh yeah, they're going to be so excited about this. Well, no, they're not, because they have different pools of money. But who is really excited about it is what Jennifer kind of talked about, is these smaller developers who are looking to do multifamily projects, who are looking to do different projects. And not to say that big developers are not excited about this, because trust me, they are. If you look at the records of what's happening across the country, I mean, there is multi-million-dollar deals happening because of this project. And what's beautiful about it is that now these projects are happening with the sustainability point in mind, not just making money. And so what we're seeing is they're reducing energy burden, and they're saving costs for themselves and their tenants and occupants in the building. So just circling back to the question, I really haven't found anybody opposed to it, but I have found folks that aren't interested because they have better access.
Thank you. I appreciate your candor.
And Paula, this is Jennifer. Can you explain what the county's role would be if this was passed? Because they would be the ones ultimately administering it. So I know you've explained some places just levy a fee, a one-time fee or something like that to kind of offset the personnel costs. Is that maybe what we might see if this passes?
I cannot say how and if Deschutes County will pass it. It certainly looks like they will. There are different ways to administer the program. We are encouraging that they follow the model of Clark County, which has been extremely successful. And the way that, and this is one of the models the county is looking at. And the way that Clark County designed their program is they charge a 1% fee with a minimum fee of $2,500 and a cap at $15,000. And those fees are covering any staffing issues that the county has taken on. That's what we're advocating for, but certainly we don't know what the county staffing levels is. We don't know, we do know that everybody's having a hard time hiring staff. So we can't say how they're going to implement it. What we do know is that we're recommending this Clark County model. They're looking at that. It's a very successful model. Clark County has found that the fees more than cover the costs of the program. So it's actually generating revenue as opposed to costing revenue. And on the flip side of that, when you think about how important it is right now to support multifamily, affordable multifamily projects, we also know that we are subsidizing those projects through SDC waivers and all kinds of different things. So this is a whole different avenue that is actually, rather than costing, it's serving the same purpose, and it's generating revenue rather than costing us revenue.
All right, thank you.
Very well.
So, I'm sorry? Yeah, okay. So it looks like we have head nods all around. Everyone want to do a head nod for support for the letter? I think that we have that.
Yeah. I feel strongly that whenever we have the opportunity, especially with affordable housing, to make that housing even more affordable by making the housing energy efficient is just a win-win. So I couldn't see any downside to this, and it's just another tool that I think that we can make as we look for people to work with us on affordable housing. Maybe it's something that they wouldn't be aware of that we could make them aware of. So yeah, I can't see a downside. I'm all in favor of it.
All right. Sounds good. I think we're in agreement. Who drafts the letter? Do they're gonna?
I think we have a template we can work with. Yeah.
And I don't think there's any conditions as far as, just draft support, a letter of support. I think we think it's a good idea, and I think it's another example of a public-private partnership. It seems like just kind of a smart thing to do, because the private sector can't get it done by themselves, and we can't either. So, I mean, it's just the way things go now. All right. You got enough, Terry? Thank you. On to staff comments. I've got Carrie first this time. You're going to lead us off. Is that okay?
Yeah, I just have a handful of things. We've been working on, thank you for passing the contract with CrossCurrent tonight in the consent agenda. That's one more step in our destination management process. We'll be bringing to you at the next meeting the destination management organization, somewhat of a timeline. We're working on that right now. So we should see that at the March 9th meeting, I believe, maybe March 30th, can't remember. And then ironically, I got the quote on reinstalling some new microphones and speakers in this room today. So we're working on getting remote mics down on the floor so that we can do meetings like we did with the goal setting, but actually have them work for the public. They can be there via Zoom, but you guys can all meet down on the floor. That's what we're working towards. And then also new speakers that would be mounted, I believe, up on this dais to help you guys hear the Zoom participants. So that price tag might be close to $15,000. I have to talk with them right now because they have to reinstall some equipment, but we're working on that right now. I just got the quote this morning, and I'm crossing my fingers that we're not too far out with equipment, but we don't know about that right now either. So those are that was the new thing that came today.
We heard earlier we have it 15,000. So
right,
yeah,
that's what Joe doesn't know about yet.
Joe's nodding his
I've
head over
actually
there. So
tagged a few dollars for this.
Preliminary budget says yeah.
So we'll see where that, but we're getting there. So we have to kind of muddle along for a little longer, but we'll get there.
Any chance we could get a clock right there? That would be easy to. No, it's okay.
That's all.
Anything else?
No.
That's your handful.
Those are my handful. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Well, thank you, Joe. You're up next. Thanks, Gary.
All right. Well, I spoiled the most interesting issue earlier with the debt service payment. So I already told you guys about that with the URA. So code compliance officer, we are reviewing the recruitment packets for those tomorrow. I think we have a strong pool of candidates for that position. So we're excited to review that, and we'll brainstorm some next steps in terms of interview questions and whatnot. And then the second thing, just to kind of give you an update on the ARPA funds and the compliance. So what you basically have to do for these NEUs, they're called, like us, that are smaller than 250,000 people, is you have to log in and you get certified and all this and that with a certain federal website, which we've done. And then they have certain tiers of submittal abilities, and we're kind of on the lower tier of that, so we're actually not even able to submit any information to them yet. But I'm sure that's coming soon because we have, I think, until April 30th. So stay tuned for that, but we're tracking all that stuff in terms of compliance just to make sure you guys know that. And that is about all I have.
How's campground going?
Campground is good. I haven't got an updated total yet from last meeting, but it is still, I mean, it's a few $1,000s. Gosh, it seems like every other day when you do a deposit. Yeah, so
great.
It's doing well. And we also have a good candidate of campground hosts. We're going to be taking a close look at those as well.
Are they all new, or do you have?
They will be, yes, they will be all new. Yep, some of the camp hosts that we've had in the past are not able to do it. We might have one set that could be interested, but it'll probably be a few new people.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Joe? I know we've seen him a lot today, huh?
Yeah, a lot of good stuff.
Yeah. You know, like today you've been the face.
Yeah, and again, if you look at that the financial report and you have any questions, you'd like to sit down and look over it, I'm happy to do that. It's a lot different than the budget report, but for those people that are used to looking at financial statements for private companies, it looks a little bit more similar.
I kind of want to see the Excel spreadsheet, to be honest with you. I think that would be cool, but.
Yeah, their breakdown, they use a totally different model within their auditing software, so.
Yeah.
Anyway,
All right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Scott. Ball's on deck.
So we're just getting settled in with our new employee. It's been awesome to have Matt here, and he's hitting the ground running and fits in well with our department. So we're just stoked to have him here, and he's already taken on some big projects with development code amendments and Sisters Elementary and some of the other big projects coming through. He's got good questions. Why do we do this? Why do you do it that way? Kind of good to get a fresh set of eyes on our processes, and we can always find ways to improve. So it's great to have him here. We got a few new submittals. One of note, the Holy Cacao. The business is looking at building a new building in the Three Peaks Industrial.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That was quick.
Personalized Nutrients is building a new building on their property over there. And in addition to the other land use applications that I mentioned, and a host of lot line adjustments and partitions and final plats and temporary use permits and all that good stuff to keep us busy. Last week, the Planning Commission approved a modification to the McKenzie Meadows project. They proposed a slight tweak to the affordable housing, or the multifamily delivery due to issues that they've been running into with supply chain and labor. So if you've been out there at all recently, you can see that the multifamily is well into construction, and it's a beehive of activity, but they have their final floor plat just sitting there. It's been sitting there for a while. We haven't been able to record it because they've not been able to get the apartments done. The supposedly transformers are back ordered for electric, and so they're doing temporary power. So they applied to the Planning Commission to get a little temporary, to push that date back just a little bit. Instead of building permit, it's now tied to CO. They can go ahead and get the phase 4 final plat done, but the COs will be required to be done on the apartments before phase 5, which is the last phase of McKenzie Meadows. I'm going to send you guys a notice of decision probably tomorrow with the findings. If you're interested in more details, you can look into that. As always, the council has the ability to call things up if they need to. It takes 2 council members to do that. You have 14 days, but Planning Commission did review that. They were a little reluctant to do it, but they acknowledge that there are these real things going on in the world that affect construction.
Please get that to all of us.
Please.
Yeah.
Please, what? Oh, yeah, it'll be sent out to everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
As we do all of our administrative reviews, we send them out to council.
Yep.
There was an approval of 300 East. Planning Commission also approved a 4 live work unit subdivision at 300 East Sun Ranch. And we also talked a little bit more about the development code amendments. I gave them the update of the direction that council provided on the storage, the temporary use, and the lighting. Came back with them, trying to get clear direction from both bodies because it has to go through both bodies. And I'm happy to report that both the council and the Planning Commission are in good alignment on these things. So the ordinance, the amendments that you will see will probably resemble a lot of the direction that you're looking for. And that's about all. I think you're updated on all the other stuff, so that's.
And one of those changes forthcoming as far as narrowing down the storage options and all that.
Well, so we feel we've got the proper direction, so the next time you'll see it will be actually a proposed text amendment, a public hearing, or we could potentially work session again. I guess we'll have to kind of figure that out. But it's design is targeted to come back in to you guys probably around May or June.
Okay.
I didn't hear what you said was happening at Sun Ranch.
300 East Sun Ranch. You went to Planning Commission because it was a 4-lot subdivision. Our code requires any subdivisions to go to Planning Commission, but they're proposing 4 separate kind of live work units on 4 lots there. Yeah, you'll also Emmy handled that one. That was her first Planning Commission public hearing, and she did great. So you'll also be getting copied on that if you have more. If you have questions and want more information.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions for Scott?
I just have a comment related to the first part of the discussion on the code amendments related to storage units. I would like to see that sooner rather than later. So if there's any way to kind of push that process a little bit up in the agenda of the Planning Commission, I think it would be to our benefit.
Okay, no, taken there. Yeah, we're targeting the March 17th meeting for Planning Commission to hear the code amendments. So if they approve it that night, we could get back to council probably in April.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Councilor Blum, anything?
No.
Scott's doing a great job, right?
B++.
I tried. B++. Councilor Les, anything? Okay.
No.
Oh. Good evening.
Good evening. So Corey and I met with GSI, who is helping us out with our water conservation implementation that we're gonna be getting out in front of this spring. Basically just revising, developing a good solid scope that definitely reflects our staff doing more work than what they had anticipated, which has a huge effect on the budget. So we're trying to keep it lean, efficient, manageable budget-wise. So more on that in the next couple of weeks as we work with those guys. We got the 90% design review for Adams Avenue basically done. Getting comments back over to Hickman Williams tomorrow, and they can wrap up those plans and cost estimate. And yes, the cost estimate's a little scary.
I just got a shudder when you said cost estimate.
I know. I looked at it and that totally refocused how I was looking at the plans. It was more of a value engineering look for me than
just to go, what are we doing extra that we don't
extra
really
pretty
need
bells
to?
and whistles. Yeah. Yep. Troy's been working on the Elm Street grant for the multi-use path up the east side of Elm Street, working with Oregon Parks and Rec to try to get that grant in by the due date of April 1st.
Excuse me. April 1st makes me laugh. When somebody makes it a deadline.
Yeah. And we got a request for proposals out for a new used street sweeper that was in the budget, if you remember. So we're excited about that, try to get it out here for the spring cleanup because we haven't hit spring. I told you guys, we're not done. And we got our 2 trucks sold on the surplus auction, and we were exactly right. It was definitely favorable to get rid of them at that point, so it worked out well.
Used vehicles are just crazy right now.
Quite a bit more than we paid for them 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Crazy.
Yeah. With a lot of miles and wear and tear put on them, so yeah, worked out great.
I have a question for you, if you don't mind. Just what's left at Creekside, the bridge, and you know, what's left to do there? Just
finish.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Swing by and check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except for the in-stream work later on.
Just the bridge.
Was that?
I was just talking about the bridge, not the restoration work.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's what I was talking about too. Sorry. Yeah.
Paul's actually reviewing proposals for the engineer to do some value engineering with the Deschutes Watershed Council Friday.
Yeah, they only got one proposal in from one team, and it's a team that they're very familiar with. So I think the review is just going to be done in-house. They're comfortable with them. So
there you go.
They knew more than we did, so Chris and I were fine with that.
Yeah, working on it.
Nice.
Getting it.
Yep.
Getting her done. Councilor Blum, Councilor Ross, anything for Paul?
I noticed the artwork going up on the bridge today or yesterday, and was happy to see it there. I know it's been a kind of a sticking point, and the new facility, the new storage shed barn going up looks real good from what I can see from the street. I haven't walked up to look at it because I don't trust my leg on the slippery stuff yet. So Paul gets an A today instead of a B++ because the artwork finally went up, and that means that certain previous members of the Parks Advisory Board are no longer calling me wondering when it's going to happen.
Ah, now we know. Okay. Thanks, Gary.
You're welcome.
Anything? No? Okay. Thanks, Paul.
Okay, thanks.
Corey.
So along those lines, we'll have a Parks Advisory Board meeting next week, and we're going to do a little field trip over to Creekside Park and Creekside Campground to get an update from Matthias and the Upper Deschutes Watershed Council on their timeline and sort of their approach to this value engineering work that they're going to be doing in the next couple of months, and then also heading over to the campground and taking a look at a potential location for the installation of the old Village Green play structure equipment that we've been storing at our Public Works headquarters. So yeah, that'll be a good meeting, Parks Board meeting next week.
And you invite my son because he has opinions
Oh.
already. He's been asking me about it. So he's like, where's it going? Where's it going? Is it going on this side? Is it going on this side? Where's it going? Where's it going? Oh.
Okay.
Whatever you do, he won't like. So.
Oh, well, in that case.
Don't invite him, yes.
He's got it.
Yes.
Good to know.
Yeah.
He has expressed his opinion to me on a number of city issues related to the park on more than one occasion. So yeah.
That's perfect, Councilor Ross, because I was going to say there's a council liaison.
Yeah, that's
I think we should put him in touch with, who happens to be relatively close. So yeah, just obviously beyond that committee meeting next week, picking up from goal setting last week and just transitioning into thinking about work plans and thinking about budget items and laying some preliminary work in terms of some of those decisions that'll go into the proposed budget a couple months from now. And then Scott and I have been working, feels like kind of a meeting almost every week, at least one, with either property owners or affordable housing developers. And kind of how we've been describing it is kind of playing matchmaker. So, hey, we're not quite sure if you two are, really going to hit it off, but we're going to do what we can to see if there's a little chemistry to make this thing happen. So I'd say we're cautiously optimistic with where we are and where we might be a couple weeks from now. So when we know more, we'll share it, but we're definitely still in that kind of identifying opportunities phase, and hopefully bringing that into focus, like we've talked about in the past, over the next 6 months and even more beyond that. But they laid out a pretty clear timeline that the funding cycles for tax credits happen in January and February. So we need to be, which you have to be perhaps 6 months in advance, ideally before that, to have the application ready to roll, because the application includes a variety of things, including site control and so on and so forth. So that would mean that we'd be ready sometime in summer for the application cycle next year. It can take 1, 2, or 3 cycles to get the funding that you need to do a project. They're pretty optimistic that we could maybe get it in the first cycle, but then you go 12 to 18 months after the award of funds to do design and permitting and bidding, and then you go 12 months of construction after that. So I mean, pretty quickly we're into 2025. Even being successful, identifying a site and identifying the developer in the next 6 months. So yeah, I mean, to be talking about something 3 years or 3.5 years from now, as almost a best case scenario is interesting. I think we all understand that a little bit working in the arena that we do, but I think it's also a good thing that we're doing what we can now to be in a position to accomplish that. So anyway, more to come on that in the future, near future. And also meeting, I don't think it's just because it's an election year, but meeting with some of our federal delegates and their staff members, just being aware of different opportunities or potential future opportunities for funding to help with some of our key projects that we've been working on for quite a while. So just a lot of meetings. It feels like that's been the flavor of the month. And we've got more of those coming next month, but it's all good stuff. So
yeah, we have joint meetings and other joint meetings and
yeah.
Anybody have any questions for Corey? No? You got off easy. All right. On to mayor council business. I'm going to go first. We got a piece of correspondence. I'm just going to read it out loud. To the members of Sisters City Council, we would like to thank you for allowing freedom stickers to be placed in Sisters public restrooms. Your action will help to empower our community to protect the city and create access to freedom for victims of human trafficking. Sincerely, Debbie Barnes and Mary Coleman. I hope I got that right. But that was for the stickers head nod that we did. That was good. Nice to get a handwritten note. I don't know how you got it, but where you found it, but that's good. Thank you for pointing it out to me. You want to go?
I have nothing.
You've got nothing. Councilor Letts.
I have nothing.
Councilor Ross.
I actually have something. Not much. The Deschutes, I sat on the Deschutes Library Planning Commission for the new facilities and for the upgrades to the existing libraries. And it looks like the work that they're going to do with the Sisters Library will start potentially in the fall. I know they're getting close on making that decision. And the main difference, other than freshening up and some things, is that they intend to open up the wall between the existing meeting room and the children's area, and then put in a movable wall so that if they have a need for a larger event space, they could potentially open the wall up and have a larger event space utilizing both the children's area, the main library, and the meeting room. I have made it very clear to them in my experience with movable walls and children on the other side is that noise can be an issue for the people in the meeting room, and they're assuring me that they are looking very hard at doing the higher end walls, which have a little more sound mitigation capabilities, the ones that typically I've worked with in the meeting rooms that I've been in charge of. So That's all the real news I have at this point in time.
Thank you. Councilor Blum?
No news really. I was wondering, I assume that everyone received a request to meet with the Peaks 360 and a proposed sustainable housing community a few miles northeast of downtown Sisters. And I don't know anything about it. And I was wondering if anybody else did know anything about it.
Well, I will invite one other counselor to meet with me Friday morning at 10 a.m. In the council chambers to find out more about it with the two gentlemen that are in charge.
Oh, okay.
Any takers? Jennifer, first with her hand up.
Okay, then I will not set up a meeting and we'll hear from you two what it's all about. Yeah, because I don't think there's any reason why they should have to go through it 5 times.
Agreed.
Especially since it's in the county.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
I was gonna say, I have a meeting scheduled with them for mid-March when I get back, but I will probably give them the opportunity to cancel it. And I somehow suspect, since we're looking at a hearing for a land use changing from EFU to RR10, that they may be coming to us, and I'm guessing for some kind of indication that that's something we would like to see happen. I don't know, but I'm not sure why else they would be asking all of us to get in the middle of this. So be interesting to see. You know, I don't know how you build sustainable on Rimrock, but more power to them.
All right. Anything else, you guys? I don't have anything else either. We have checks to sign. All right, so don't leave, the 3 of us here. Other than that, the meeting's adjourned. Thank you.